Shot in a drive-by shooting. New tonight on Our News Live at 7. Investigators probing the attempted murder of a man on Eleuthera. But first,
I'm Natalia Hall. Coming up in the news tonight, the Member of Parliament for North Abaco, Kirk Cornish, has been released from custody. We speak with Grand Bahama residents about the incident.
Case-by-case basis, the immigration minister says permits for foreign workers and residents still subject to the most vigorous review and scrutiny under a new policy. And then in Our News at 7:30, taxpayers on the hook for nearly $1 million in repatriations. Our News Live at 7 starts right now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Megan Shepard. The saga continues as the MP for North Abaco, Kirk Cornish, has been released from police custody. The Our News team finding out the information while on the ground in Grand Bahama today when they visited the Central Police Station, only to learn that he was no longer there. Our Natalia Hall reports from Grand Bahama.
Member of Parliament for North Abaco, 48-year-old Kirk Cornish, accompanied by his attorney, turned himself into police in Grand Bahama on Thursday afternoon for questioning on rape allegations. But less than 24 hours later, Our News understood that Cornish had been released from custody. Now, I also spoke with the North Abaco MP's attorney, Owen Wells, who declined to comment on the situation, which he says is out of respect for the police investigation, Kirk Cornish, and a woman who is involved in the case. While Wells is silent, Grand Bahama residents are speaking out. Gloria Williams says she was surprised when she first heard about the allegations.
Like they say, it's innocent until proven guilty. I don't know what's going to happen to him after that.
Williams says she believes that the MP should step down given the circumstances.
That'll be the most honorable thing to do.
But as it turns out, an MP does not have to resign from the House of Assembly, even if he or she is questioned by police or charged before the court. But under Article 48 of the Constitution, a seat would become vacant if an MP is convicted of a crime and sentenced for a period exceeding 12 months. Still, it is unknown if Cornish will be charged with a crime. Now, following news that the Abaco MP was released, we attempted to reach out to him, but our calls were not answered.
Telephone number.
Now, Cornish is a freshman MP and was voted into office after running as a Progressive Liberal Party MP for the North Abaco seat. He also currently serves as Parliamentary Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister. The North Abaco MP has a grill and chill in Green Turtle Key Abaco planned for Saturday. Reporting for Our News from Grand Bahama, I'm Natalia Hall.
Thanks, Natalia. And for more on this, be sure and follow Our News Bahamas on Facebook and head over to ournews.bs to stay up to date with all the latest. Plus, at the bottom of the hour, we've got more reaction as residents weigh in. Be sure and stay tuned for that coming up in Our News at 7:30. Now to Eleuthera, where police have launched an aggressive investigation into an overnight shooting. What we know is that a 32-year-old man of Hatchet Bay was shot in the lower body during the incident on Thursday. Police tell us around 11 p.m. The victim was with a group of men standing at the front of a business in Hatchet Bay when a gray Jeep pulled up and someone from inside that vehicle opened fire. Police say the Jeep sped off and the victim was taken to the local clinic. At last report, he was listed in stable condition. Police are appealing to anyone who may have information to contact the Criminal Investigations Department at 502-9991 or 919. And if you want to leave an anonymous tip, you can call Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS. Meantime, saturation patrols in New Providence leading to the arrest of two men, ages 38 and 25, after police say they were found with an illegal gun and ammunition. Officers tell us it was sometime around 10:30 a.m. on Thursday when officers in Operation Suppress were patrolling Bahama Avenue and Lincoln Boulevard and observed two men walking who were acting suspiciously. Police say they stopped and searched the men and found the high-powered weapon and ammunition. The two were taken into custody as investigations continue. Meantime, National Security Minister Wayne Monroe sharing government's hope of introducing a Parole Act for consultation. Monroe says the bill will seek to clean up and change the current system in which prisoners serve their time. The goal, he says, is for everyone to serve their sentence one way or another.
When you go to prison now, you get 4 months off for good behavior. So if you were sentenced to 12 months, you only serve 8 months. When you come out on day 1, you can commit an offense and you never serve the 4 months that you were given off. We intend to change that. We intend to make it clear that you will serve your sentence, some in the correctional institution, some in the community.
Monroe says he hopes the act will provide alternative sentences to keep people out of jail who commit minor offenses. This, he says, will in turn solve the issue of non-violent criminals turning to gangs.
A drug lord, a gang leader, gets him and says, I'm going to make sure nobody fools with you. I'm going to make sure you get water. I'm going to make sure you get some money on your commissary. Going to make sure when I smuggle some dope into prison, because that happens, as you have seen, when he comes out, he wasn't riding any gang when he went in. When he comes out, he may well and most likely will be riding a gang. And so the conditions in prison have to be addressed.
Now to this, work and residence permits still being granted on a case-by-case basis. That's according to Labor and Immigration Minister Keith Bell. Back in January, Bell announced the changes to policies concerning the acceptance and processing of applications for work permits and residence permits, noting that all existing work permit applications and renewals for work permits will be subjected to the most vigorous review and scrutiny. Here's what he had to say today about how that process is working out.
We're still seeing a significant number of applications for work permits and permits to reside. And again, it is on a case-by-case basis, but as I would have reported, we have stopped issuing the permits. We're still considering those on a case-by-case basis for humanitarian and other reasons. But again, the object and the reason is to ensure that we do our due diligence before we allow any persons into the country.
Much more to get into in a moment, but for now, it's time for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg, it's one of the most anticipated days of the week, Friday. What can we look forward to?
TGIF, yeah.
Amen.
Warm conditions expected for the weekend, and it is warm outside our studios right now. Few clouds, your winds are out of the south at 12 miles per hour, and your field strike temperature is at 80 degrees. Temperatures around the islands right now, it's in the 80s, most locations, 81 in Freeport as well as in Marsh Harbor, pick up 82s in Alistown, Bimini, over in Great Harbor Key, and in the capital, 81 in Governors Harbor, Nicholstown, Andros, 83. More 80s popping up in the Central Bahamas, 84 in Kemps Bay, more 82s in Georgetown, Deadman's Key, 80 in Coburntown, San Salvador, and Arthurstown, Cat Island. And then we round out temperature profile in Southeast Bahamas, lots of 80s there. Matthew Townley now, where you guys round out a temperature profile 83 down the deep south. Satellite-wise, quiet across area. We do have a ridge of high pressure in charge, but we have some moisture moving out of the Gulf of Mexico that generates some showers across the northwest Bahamas. Most of that will wane off tonight, but we should see more showers tomorrow as we get the heating of the day and some of that moisture lingering around. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us so look at the extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, second city arrivals, what the chairman of the Grand Bahama Island Tourism Board is saying about promising air and sea arrivals. But first, how a UK credit agency is looking to support local projects. Find out how you may be able to access partnership opportunities. And be sure to stay tuned for our Work in Progress segment as we share road updates that'll help you with safer nighttime driving. That story when our news returns.
It's your thing. Do what you want to do. It's your thing. Do what you want to do. It's your thing. Do what you want to do.
shareholders are very happy.
That's your thing. Do what you want to do.
UK Export Finance, UKEF, is the United Kingdom's export credit agency, which provides financing support and promotes UK exports across all sectors. Head of Export Finance for North America and the Caribbean, Jessie McDougall, says her role is to source transactions as they are currently seeking to support projects in the Caribbean, particularly here in the Bahamas.
The types of projects that we're looking at supporting are really the national priorities of the government of Bahamas. So it's things like airports, touristic infrastructure, water, sewage projects, national security, and healthcare, absolutely, yeah. So really the range, depending on, the priorities of the government.
While she is not at liberty to make any announcements just yet, she says they have been working with the government to fund projects locally.
We have been in discussions for some time on one in particular, but we'll announce when we're able to a little bit further along the transaction. I think in the coming months, and it is infrastructure, so core infrastructure that is a national priority for the Bahamas.
But partnership opportunities are not limited to government agencies only.
It can be government, corporate, and in some instances even project finance, so newly formed SPVs that are operating in the power generation sector as an example. So we have quite a range of potential counterparties that we can support.
Regional Head for Africa and North America, Michelle D., shares the criteria for partnership.
Our mission, as Jessie mentioned right at the beginning, is to support UK exports. We have therefore a minimum UK content requirement in the contracts that we support. We are very flexible, so it's minimum 20%, and then we can support local content, as Jessie mentioned, but also other foreign content that might come into the contract. And we support goods, services, equipment, and also licensing.
This segment of the news is brought to you by H.G. Christie. List your home in Grand Bahama with H.G. Christie. Visit our new office in the Port Lakaya Marketplace. H.G. Christie, celebrating over 100 years of service.
Tourist arrivals in Grand Bahama are doing well. That's according to Chairman of the Grand Bahama Island Tourism Board, Ian Roll. Roll presented an industry report during the Bahamas Hotel and Tourism Association Board of Directors and membership meeting. Roll gave an update on air and sea arrivals, and that's not all.
But in regards to our sea arrivals, we're doing very well, extremely well. Based on our February 22 numbers compared to February 2023, we're up by almost 200% in regards to our sea arrivals, and year-to-date up 283% when we look at our February 2023 numbers compared to our February 22 numbers. The hotel rooms available on the island at the moment, 1,500 rooms. Occupancy is still not where we want it. 46%, but it's up at least 67% from last year, same time.
Roll also gave this update on the Carnival cruise port.
Carnival has completed the dredging for this cruise port, and the next step is to now put out to tender the construction of the pier to facilitate the largest Carnival vessels. And I anticipate that this pier work should start by September, October.
The Central Bank of the Bahamas Financial Literacy Fair and Digital Expo started this morning, hosting over 30 financial and digital vendors throughout the Fusion Superplex. Speakers included President of Civil Society Bahamas, Dr. Anthony Hamilton, Central Bank Governor John Roll, and Minister of Economic Affairs Michael Halkitis. The Economic Affairs Minister explains the fair's goal over its two-day run.
The objective of it is to impart knowledge and good habits in terms of financial management, money, budgeting, knowing what is available in terms of from the various financial institutions and the various payment systems, and as well to promote the use of technology in the provision of financial services, and basically to impart information to the public about what's available from the financial services providers, and I'm sure get exchange from them as to what they would like to see in terms of service improvement.
The fair also welcomed school children who enthusiastically explored the expo. When asked if the Ministry of Economic Affairs has any plans of collaborating with the Education Minister to create financial literacy programs in schools, Halkitis says,
I think that's something the minister is keen on, because all of it goes to standard of living and quality of life, independence, all of that. So it's one of the building blocks, and I know that the minister is very keen on it, and so we look forward to continuing this sort of effort and taking it into the schools so that we begin that financial literacy and developing good financial habits at an early age.
Now, for tonight's segment of Work in Progress, we're talking about upcoming efforts to make some of our busiest Western roads safer. Marlena Leonard has more in this report.
This week, we've been highlighting the ongoing works on the Gladstone Road project, where crews are working to install road lines and reflective markers for the busy street. While that project is expected to be completed next week, weather permitting, the ministry is already scoping out other projects. Chief Superintendent of the Road Signs Department in the Ministry of Works, Sidney Clear.
There are several roads similar to Gladstone roads that are of concern. We want the general public aware that we note Carmichael Road, right there by the Southwest Plaza there. That needs to be addressed. We intend to address that. And also, traffic on the Western Road strip going into Laifiki, that road is pretty dark also. And we're concerned about that. We want to address that as well.
Similar to the Gladstone Road efforts, the work would include reflective markers as well as reflective thermoplastic paint for safer nighttime driving. Clear offers this tentative timeline.
Once we have finished with Gladstone Road, the plan is to go to Western Road, and then after we would have addressed Western Road, we would address that section of road of Blue Hill and Carmichael heading west in the area of the Carmichael Plaza, that area there. That's a concern.
Reporting for Work in Progress for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
When Our News comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world. As 25 are dead in Ukraine as Russian missiles hit cities. Plus, ever heard of Blue Sky? If not, find out how the former CEO of Twitter is making his own version of the Bluebird app. And later, charity on display, how you can help the Rotary Club of West Nassau raise $40,000 for a good cause. That's coming up when Our News returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. Russia unleashed a wave of early morning attacks in central Ukraine. A missile strike on an apartment building in the city of Uman killed at least 23 people, including 3 children. And according to officials, the death toll will likely continue to rise. This as officials say a 31-year-old woman and her 2-year-old child were killed in a strike. Air defenses knocked down most of the missiles launched at Ukraine in the early morning hours Friday. Ukraine's Air Force says it intercepted 21 out of the 23 cruise missiles and destroyed 2 drones. Abortion bans in deeply conservative Nebraska and South Carolina both fell short of advancing in close legislative votes amid heated debates among Republicans. In Nebraska, abortion, an effort to ban abortion about the 6th week of pregnancy, fell 1 vote short of breaking a filibuster. Meantime, in South Carolina, lawmakers voted 22-21 to shelve a proposed near-total abortion ban for the rest of the year. 14 other states have bans in place on abortion at all stages of pregnancy, while 4 others have bans throughout pregnancy where enforcement is blocked by courts. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris.
Here's how I think about this issue. One does not have to abandon their faith, right? Their faith or their deeply held beliefs. To agree, the government should not be telling that woman what to do with her body. Mm-hmm. This evokes, in my mind, very fundamental rights, including the right to freedom for each individual to make a decision about what is in their best interest, the best interest of their family. And if they choose, make that decision with their priest or their pastor or their rabbi. But the government should not be making this decision.
Twitter's former CEO Jack Dorsey has a new app called Blue Sky. Industry insiders say the buzzy new social media app of the moment looks so much like Twitter, it's almost hard to distinguish the two. The profiles, timelines, and colors are nearly identical. For now, Blue Sky is invite only as it ramps up support for the implementation of its network. The app, which launched in a closed beta on iOS in February and on Android this month, has gained traction among journalists, politicians, and celebrities. And now to the region where 2 local journalists have been killed in Haiti over the past couple of weeks as rampant gang violence has gripped the capital of Port-au-Prince and surrounding areas. In a statement on Thursday, the Committee to Protect Journalists said that radio reporter Dumski Crescent was fatally shot in mid-April, while journalist Rico Jean was found dead on Tuesday. The National Association of Haitian Media has condemned the killings. And finally, several schools in Trinidad and Tobago were evacuated following early morning bomb threats. National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines on Friday warned those responsible that they would be pursued and dealt with. Police said they had received 10 reports of email bomb threats that read, "Explosives are planted on the buildings," and that they intend to kill everyone. President of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, Martin Loom Kin, said schools had been dismissed as members were taking no chances. Today in history, still to come in our news. Find out interesting facts about the day that was April 28th, including the abrupt ending of a House of Assembly meeting over who had the authority, and lending a helping hand. Stay tuned for how you can help the Rotary Club raise $40,000. Then in our news at 7:30, North Abaco MP Kirk Cornish is released from police custody after a brief arrest. We've got reaction when our news returns.
It's your thing. Do what you want to do.
Welcome back. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was April 28th, including a short session of the House of Assembly that ended abruptly after strong words from the then Speaker. Take a look. April 28, 2020, customs officers conducted a raid at the new Made Men Bar on Faith Avenue, claiming the business had not provided proof of customs payments. On April 20th, Ash was convicted of operating the bar in defiance of an emergency order that closed all non-essential businesses. He pleaded guilty to violating the national curfew and operating a non-essential business and paid a $7,000 fine to avoid spending 1 year in prison. Police arrested and charged Ash after a video went viral of him selling alcoholic beverages from the bar as members of his security detail stood by. At the time, officers in the video were placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into misconduct. Ash later sued the Comptroller of Customs over the seizure of liquor from his bar. The application was held in closed court. Then in 2021, then House Speaker Halton Moultrie abruptly adjourned proceedings of the House of Assembly, accusing the executive at the time of disrespecting his authority in Parliament. Before adjourning, Moultrie declared that he was fully prepared to go to war with the Minnis administration. The dust-up between the Speaker and his Free National Movement government came after measures were not taken to ensure the safety of parliamentary staff and others, after the House Clerk tested positive for COVID-19 on Tuesday. Moultrie said the staff members were called into work despite his recommendations that they quarantine.
Moultrie also accusing the government of not adhering to its own COVID-19 protocols, citing the fact that there was no physical distancing amongst most MPs.
We established a certain physical distancing within this parliament. The Speaker announced those protocols, and some authority who believes that they have jurisdiction over the Speaker's jurisdiction in this legislative branch has caused numerous chairs to be added to this assembly.
Now he says he's fed up.
I don't necessarily pick fights or wars, but if you want a war, you can get a war.
The Rotary Club of West Nassau looking to raise $40,000 to donate to charity, and they plan on raising the funds by selling raffle tickets. President-elect of the Rotary Club of Nassau, Kevin Christie.
The initiative has already started. We have approval and we're selling tickets May 1st. We're going to be at the Super Value as one of our sponsors. We have a $10,000 grocery. I'm sure everybody could use that, $10,000 in grocery coupons. Some of our other sponsors, Going Places Travel, Benneby's Auto, and Suncash, which is providing the digital link. The link is http://rotary.mysuncash.com.
Rotary liaison for the Rotarian Club of the University of the Bahamas, Ryan Maycock, says young people are vital when it comes to projects and initiatives like this.
We have a lot of younger folk in the club. As you can see, they said they've been doing it since 1995. That's from before I was born. So in order to reach like the larger market, in order to get like a bigger market penetration, we want to be able to, they wanted our assistance with accessing that younger market. So for us, we do a lot of marketing when it comes to selling tickets to the youth, and we're able to reach those folks that they aren't able to reach as easily.
Now, to learn more on how you can help and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. That does it for Our News at 7. Joining us now is our Jamila Mizik, who is in for Italia Hall with the latest headlines. Happy Friday, Jamila. How was your week?
Happy Friday,
how much are you looking forward to the weekend?
My week was very busy, as I'm sure all of us had a busy week. I am so ready to go home to my bed. How about you?
I am very much looking forward to taking a break and resting.
Alrighty, thanks, Megan. We are still following the latest developments in the arrest and release of a sitting member of Parliament and the $1 million price tag for repatriations. Here now are your latest headlines. New tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. The numbers are in and taxpayers are on the hook for nearly $1 million in repatriation costs. The immigration minister reveals the latest figures. But first, reaction tonight as North Abaco MP Kirk Cornish is released from police custody following a brief arrest. We've got the latest. Also, talking tourism, promising airport arrival numbers being reported tonight as the head of the country's main gateway breaks down the numbers. And later, it's World Day for Safety and Health at Work. Labor officials advocating for the promotion of healthy working environments for everyone. The story when Our News Live at 7:30 returns.
With over 25 years,
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Jamila Mizik in for Italia Hall. Government has spent nearly $1 million on repatriation so far this year, the number from Labor and Immigration Minister Keith Bell tonight. We'll get to more on Bell's comments in a moment, but to now this developing story. As North Abaco MP Kirk Cornish has been released from police custody, the 48-year-old who was accompanied by his attorney turned himself into police in Grand Bahama on Thursday afternoon for questioning on rape allegations, but was released later that night. Our Italia Hall spoke with the North Abaco MP's attorney, Owen Wells, who declined to comment on the situation, which he says is out of respect for the police investigation, Cornish, and a woman who is involved in the case. While Cornish and his attorney are remaining mum, Grand Bahama resident Gloria Williams says she was surprised when she first heard about the allegations.
Like they say, it's innocent until proven guilty. But if it's true, if it's the truth, it's wrong. I don't know what's going to happen to him after that. I don't know if they're going to ask him to resign or whatever.
Now, it is unclear if police plan on charging Cornish with a crime, but they did promise a thorough and fair investigation. This is a story we will continue to follow. Tonight, a professional in the counseling and therapy community is lending her voice to the issue of gender-based violence, particularly abuse. Our Joshua Williams reports.
With an uptick in crimes against women and claims of alleged abuse by a sitting member of parliament, Our News spoke to licensed therapist Dr. Edriga Richardson, who believes the country is in a poor state when it comes to domestic abuse.
One of the things that we really have to pay attention to is what are we doing? How are we creating narratives that are healthy and supportive of people who are going through any type of abusive situation?
She also adds that every situation is unique.
There is no one size fits all. It does look completely different to every situation, but there are similarities in how situations can happen. For instance, when we're talking about sexual abuse within households, what tends to happen is it usually is a family member or a close trusted friend that is usually the perpetrator of the abuse.
Dr. Richardson also sharing her disappointment with the investigation process sometimes carried out by police in these matters.
When they went to go and report situations, they were told by officers that they need to prove how and when this abuse happened, that they would actually have to confront their perpetrators.
Richardson makes this appeal to those who are afraid to speak out.
You do matter to us, and we want to encourage you to come forward and find a safe space to tell your story, because your story matters.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
Thanks, Joshua. A man who allegedly committed another offense while on bail for murder has had a second bail application refused. Alex Deraquad was released on $30,000 bail in February 2021 in relation to the January 2020 murder of Dario Pinder, who was shot multiple times at Weddell Avenue in Freeport, Grand Bahama. His bail conditions required him to wear an ankle bracelet, sign in 3 times weekly at the Central Police Station, and keep a daily curfew of 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. While on bail, Deraquad was charged with possession of a firearm with intent to put another in fear. The charge stems from an incident on January 6, 2023, in which Deraquad is allegedly seen on surveillance footage firing a gun. The incident took place 4 hours past Deraquad's curfew. Deraquad admitted that he was away from his home, but he claimed that he went to get food from a restaurant. Meanwhile, an Eleuthera man is in hot water tonight after police say he stabbed his brother at a Governor's Harper police station. The incident reportedly occurred around 9:45 p.m. on Thursday. Police say the victim was making a complaint at the police station when he was approached by his brother and they began to argue. Moments later, the altercation became physical and the suspect pulled out a knife and the victim was stabbed multiple times. Officers were able to de-escalate the situation and arrested the suspect while the victim was transported to the local clinic for treatment, where he is listed in stable condition. Investigations continue into this matter. And police are investigating an overnight shooting that landed a 22-year-old man from First Street, The Grove, in hospital. Police say around 10:30 p.m. they were alerted by shot spotter technology to gunshots being discharged through Broome Street. It was there where they met a man in a nearby business suffering from gunshot injuries to the upper body. According to reports, the victim was driving his Nissan Cube through Broome Street when he was approached by 2 men in a burgundy car. The men pulled out guns and opened fire, which resulted in him being shot to the upper body and his vehicle receiving extensive damage. As he fled the gunfire, the victim parked and ran to Peter Street. EMS was called and he was transported to hospital, where he is listed in serious condition. Investigations continue into this matter. Police are appealing to members of the public who may have any information to contact the Criminal Investigations Department at 502-9991 or 919. Almost $1 million has been spent on repatriation so far this year. That's according to Labor and Immigration Minister Keith Bell. It's in an effort to avoid overcrowding at the Carmichael Road Detention Center, which he says can pose some serious challenges.
I've signed in excess of 200 repatriation orders. As we speak, I know that there is an interception of some 54 irregular migrants out to sea right now, and that is something that is in we are investigating now to determine where the point of origin it was, and determine how we're going to deal with those persons who are now in custody, as well as the smugglers more particularly.
And now it is time for your first look at weather. Greg is in the Weather Center standing by. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Milena. Good evening, everybody. Good way to end the weekend. Not the weekend. With warm temperatures, 81 degrees outside the studios, few clouds. The winds out of the south at 9 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature is at 90. Around the islands today, high pressure ridge in charge of most of the locations across the chain of islands, exception being the extreme northern islands, Grand Bahama, Abaco. You guys are seeing some isolated showers and thunderstorms. We have a few more moving off of Florida, so you could see a few more showers later tonight and tomorrow as most of the moisture in the Gulf of Mexico moves across the area by that time. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, airport officials reporting on the consistent return of travelers passing through LPIA. We've got the latest on tourism's recovery. Also, senators wrap debate on the central bank amendment bill, now passed in the Senate. And later, a magistrate and advocate say let's do more about gender-based violence, as the issue remains a central focus of a national debate. That's coming up when our news returns.
Whether you're battling a chronic condition or offsetting a new injury, Doctors Hospital's comprehensive rehab services offer the help you need now.
Go to doctors.
3 advanced facilities at Collins Avenue, Carmichael Road, and Cable Beach means your personalized plan for care is just a visit away. From physiotherapy to occupational therapy and speech and language pathology, our team approach is all about rebuilding together. For a full list of services, visit doctorshosp.com/rehabilitation. Doctors Hospital, trusted and best care now. Isn't your health worth it?
You've already heard lots from the Bahamas Hotel and Tourism Association Board of Directors and membership meeting in our 7 p.m. newscast. Also revealed during the event was passenger arrival numbers at the Lyndon Pinling International Airport. Nassau Airport Development Company's president and CEO Vernice Joaquin telling stakeholders the numbers have been encouraging.
We are seeing consistent return of our pre-pandemic passenger traffic here at LPIA. And we're pleased to say that we've recovered about 92% of our year-to-date traffic compared to the same period in 2019. However, when you compare us to the same period in 2022, we are about 43% ahead of 2022. So we're really pleased at the pace of recovery, and we're very optimistic that we'll continue to see strong loads going forward into the summer.
And Joaquin says Easter numbers were also good despite some challenges with Miami air traffic services and the weather.
We accommodated almost close to 3,000 takeoffs and landings, or movements as they're called, which represents about a 3% increase when compared with the same period last year.
Senators debating and passing the Central Bank of the Bahamas Amendment Bill 2023. The bill was debated and passed in the House of Assembly on Monday evening. Leader of Government Business in the Senate, Michael Halkita, says it addresses 3 issues, including handling of special drawing rights distributed by the International Monetary Fund.
The Bahamas, as a member country, received a share of these SDRs, which by design can be used for debt management or rebuilding external reserves based on the country's priorities. It was left to the various governments to decide how to use this issuance of SDRs. The IMF set no precondition on the use of the SDRs. At the time that the SDRs were allocated to the Bahamas, Madam President, the central bank indicated that they would be used to shore up the reserve.
The The bill seeks to make modifications to Section 17, creating a new Section 17A that empowers the minister to access, utilize, or convert special drawing rights allocated by the International Monetary Fund for the purpose of reducing its foreign currency debt obligations and to manage its foreign currency debt operations. The opposition also sharing their views on the bill.
The reality is that, you know, in my estimation, Madam President, that the government entered into this arrangement with Central Bank, and it wasn't detailed in the debt management strategy, right? The purpose wasn't disclosed, and it's coming from a government. They claim that everything was functioning perfectly and we're ahead of revenue projections, but yet we're drawing down on these reserves being held by the Central Bank.
President of Civil Society Bahamas, Dr. Anthony Hamilton, was in attendance at the Central Bank of the Bahamas Financial Literacy Fair and Digital Expo this morning. He says from a civil society sector standpoint, our people are our largest asset and investment, and that the ramped-up efforts to improve Bahamians' financial literacy have come at the right time.
This timing of this particular expo is critical, given the circumstances that we're dealing with in the country. The importance of recognizing three primary resources: time, money, and relationships, because they all go together. The timing is right to introduce our young people at an early age with regard to having a full appreciation for financial literacy, and also with regard to money management, understanding how critical a tool money is, because it is a tool. And as a result of that, the relationships, because it positions you to make various connectivities, empowering you.
When asked about the connection between financial literacy and crime, the civil society president tells us
the socioeconomic impact being demonstrated by way of crime is an indication that there is a direct link. Right, so there's no question about it. And so the aspect of financial literacy right now with regard to empowering the citizen is a critical component, that persons have a better understanding that they're positioned to exercise their resources to empower them and put them in a position to do better than they actually do.
When our news comes back from the break, gender-based violence, the topic of a panel discussion led by a well-known women's advocate and female magistrate.
And coming up in sports, the University of the Bahamas impacts the community with their UB Fit Racing fundraiser. And we have new BISS soccer champions. Hang around for our sports.
And later, it's World Day for Safety and Health at Work. We've got more on promotion efforts by labor officials who are now advocating for safer working environments for all. The details when our news returns. is Our News. Welcome back. Gender-based violence has been a hot topic throughout 2023. Last night was no different as the graduate chapter of Delta Sigma Theta held a panel discussion on the issue featuring a well-known women's advocate and one of the country's youngest female magistrates. Our Sasha Lightborn attended and filed this report.
If you were to ask Magistrate Jan Marie Darville Miller what one of the root causes for gender-based violence is in the country, she would say the lack of education.
A lot of people are not aware of what their rights are as women, as citizens of this country. Not a lot of people are aware of the disparity with respect to legislation, constitutional rights that affect women and children.
And well-known women's advocate Marissa Mason-Smith agreed. She also says there's been a shift in the type of woman being impacted by such crimes.
Now I've also seen those with the master's degrees and all the other degrees living in certain areas are also affected. So in communicating with them, I've still found the bottom line was self-esteem and self-worth.
The ladies appeared on a panel Wednesday night hosted by the Bahamas chapters of Delta Sigma Theta sorority on the topic, the advancement of women's legal rights in the Bahamas. And while Mason-Smith believes part of the solution is to build more safe houses, there is still this issue.
If you have boy children, you can't go nowhere over 10. And then it's only 2 weeks you can stay if they're under 10.
Magistrate Darville Miller also believes there needs to be a shift in the mindset.
It's as if a lot of people think that this is normal behavior. I cannot even stress that enough. And like I said, a theme, education, making them aware that this is wrong.
Overall, both women feel a lot of progress has been made protecting women and children in the country, but there is still more that has to be done. We will have more from both ladies in another newscast. Reporting for Our News, I'm Sasha Lightborn.
Today's sports update is sponsored by Corona, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
The University of the Bahamas UB Fit Road Race and Fundraiser is all set to return, and private school soccer crowns some new champions. Tej Adderley is up now with a check on sports.
Hello, Jamila. Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome to Our Sports. The University of the Bahamas has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years to benefit the community through its UB Fit Race and Fundraiser. This year's edition promises to be the best one yet. Here's more. For the University of the Bahamas over the weekend, it looked like the hundreds of racers who walked, ran, biked, skated, and pushed their way through the streets of New Providence for UB Fit Nassau. New relationships were forged, existing ones were strengthened, and approximately $50,000 was raised to benefit UB students and important programs. Whether through in-person or remote involvement, participants were excited and proud to be a part of UB Fit. About 600 people overall participated in the 5K, 10K, and 15K races. Co-chair of the organizing committee, Candace Eldon, and UB President Dr. Eric Rowland spoke on the impact of the growing support for UB.
They're in the streets this morning getting fit with us, and it was just a fantastic event. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank all of our walkers and runners and bikers for a really awesome event. And I hope to see all of you out here next year as well.
The support came from the community and also from generous corporate sponsors. The 2023 BISS soccer champions were crowned yesterday at the Roscoe A. Davies Field. Let's meet our new private school soccer champs. The 2023 Bahamas Association of Independent Secondary Schools Soccer Championships were played yesterday at the Roscoe A. Davies Field. Queens College swept the girls' divisions, beating Windsor Prep 2-1 to take the junior girls' title. They followed that up by routing Lifer Key International School 6-0 for the senior girls' title. St. Andrews took the junior boys' title, beating Lifer Key 1-0 in a thriller. One of Lifer's 3 teams managed to leave RALD with a chip when their senior boys beat St. Andrews in another thriller 2-1. Congratulations to all of our new private school soccer champions. That was your look at sports. I'm Tej Adderley. Have a wonderful weekend.
Still ahead on Our News tonight, labor officials promoting better working environments for all on this World Day of Safety and Health at Work. Find out their message coming up.
But first, meteorologist Greg Thompson is back in the Weather Center to help you get ready for the weekend with your extended forecast. It's all coming up when Our News returns. Welcome back to Our News. The weekend is finally here, and if you've got outdoor plans, then it's gonna be a hot one. Meteorologist Greg Thompson joins us now from the Weather Center with more on this. And Greg, I know you're watching a system that's expected to bring some wet weather by Sunday?
Yeah, late season cold front expected getting here, and that is causing some problems across the central portion of the United States right now. We see that in a satellite view, but yeah, the weekend is expected to be hot. Temperatures are going to be in the mid to upper 80s, so make sure you plan accordingly. In the meantime, though, ridge of high pressure systems still across us, and that's going to dominate our weather through tomorrow. A couple of isolated showers across the extreme northern islands. That's all due to an upper level disturbance that's moving across north and central Florida. Some more activity still in the Gulf of Mexico, likely to move across the state by tonight and into the northwest Bahamas by tomorrow, so we could see some isolated afternoon showers and thunderstorms. So make sure you prepare for that as well. But as that high pressure slides out, we're watching the system across the central portion of the United States. That's going to be moving in our area, as I mentioned, for Sunday. In the meantime, a couple isolated showers through tomorrow, and then here comes that front boundary approaching central Florida by Saturday, and then by Sunday we expect that system to move across northwest Bahamas with some scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. There will be a slight cool down once this front boundary goes through, but temperatures will be back up into the upper 80s to the 90s by about the middle of the week. Boating forecast for the weekend, the winds will be out of the southeast to south at around 50 knots in the northwest Bahamas, seas running 3 to 5 feet. Caution flag will come into effect by tomorrow evening. Ahead of that front, low tide will be at 9:24 tonight. For the central and southeast Bahamas, east to southeast flow 10 to 15 knots, seas running 2 to 4 feet over open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. And your extended forecast, showers in the forecast Saturday and Sunday, and that front boundary once again getting in here by the time frame, so we'll carry some showers on into Monday. Slight cool down, but temperatures will be back up into the mid to upper 80s by the middle of the week. That's a look at our weather. Have a safe weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Greg. And finally, tonight, every year on April 28, the International Labor Organization celebrates World Day for Safety and Health at Work. This year, the Department of Labor took the message of safety in the workplace to the mall at Marathon. Labor and Immigration Minister Keith Bell stressing the importance of continuously promoting and ensuring that a safe and healthy work environment is created for all employees.
You know, in the Bahamas, we've had several incidents where employees have actually died on the work site. And so we want to ensure to continuously bring an awareness to this. I think that we have to begin moving in the direction where, as we have these accidents, we continue to develop best practices. And if we continue to have these incidents where we see gross negligence or where there ought to have been safeguards put in place, and through the investigations, we ought to begin looking at criminal charges.
And for those working on construction sites, he says safety is the #1 priority.
When you go around New Providence, you would see these men on these high buildings, these high-rise on rooftops, etc., with no safety harness, no protective gear. And we want to encourage both the employer and the employee that on these sites, safety first ought to be the #1 rule.
Now, according to the Health and Safety Act, Section 22, it is the responsibility of the employer to ensure that once there are 20 or more employees, a health and safety committee must be in place. Senior Safety Officer at the Department of Labor, Sharon Moss, says one of their daily roles is to ensure that safety practices are being implemented throughout the various workplaces.
We go out in the work site to the different establishments frequently. As you can see in the back of me, we have pictures posted on our board where we dress in our personal protective equipment. We go out on the construction site often, and also we go into the establishment. I have a team today actually on ground going from merchant to merchant to bring more awareness. So even though we're here in the mall, we also have our Rosetta Street office set up along with Robinson Road and Carmichael.
All right, thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Jamila Mizik. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.